You're listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast, the official podcast of jaysjournal.com and fansided.com, where we discuss all things Toronto Blue Jays baseball. We'll talk about news, rumors, and game recaps. So whether you're a diehard fan or just getting started with the team, this is the podcast for you. Here is your host, Craig Borden, with co-hosts Jason Lyons and me, Ken Alfred. You're listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast.
Good evening, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to another evening of Jay Bird Watching. I am Craig Borden, your host, here with Ken Alfred and Jason Lyons, ready to talk Blue Jays baseball because it's finally spring, or at least, not Groundhog Day spring. So, Jason, Ken, how are we doing this evening?
Doing good. It's starting to warm up here in Canada here. I think we got +8, I think, right now. So we all know what that means. Barbecue weather. Shorts weather. That's what it's like here.
I drove with my windows down today here in New York, just saying. So, yeah, Jason, how things in Vancouver?
Same for me. It's actually been 2 really spring-like days here. It's cold in the mornings, but really nice in the afternoons. We're actually looking as baseball, coaches and players, we're actually looking at getting out this weekend and actually being outside rather than being inside the cage like we have to be tonight. So it really starts to get the old spring juices flowing. I'm not wearing any pants underneath, so that's just to keep that spring motif going.
There it is. And also joining us this evening, Jays Journal editor Eric Troyden. How we doing, Eric?
Good. Really happy to be here, guys. Thanks a lot for having me.
So you happen to be all of a sudden rather trending on Twitter and whatnot in the Blue Jays Twitterverse as a Jays Journal writer and editor for a certain grenade thrown from afar by an ex-Red Sox. Do you want to fill the team in here?
Yeah. Jonathan Papelbon, a throwback name. He was on the Red Sox for a while. He was an all-star closer, 2005 to 2011. He was on a podcast recently, and he was just tearing the Blue Jays apart, saying they haven't done enough this offseason, and he was saying how there's no other pitchers on the staff of note besides Kevin Dossman. So the whole bullpen and Alek Manoah and everybody else just doesn't exist in his world. So he said that the Blue Jays would be lucky to be a fourth-place team, and he said that they're barely above the Red Sox in his eyes for last place.
Wow. So either the Red Sox are a lot better than we're all thinking they're going to be, and they're a 90-win team with all the other teams in the American League East somehow, or I don't know. I don't get the logic. Ken, I can see something's turning there as far as it doesn't sound like the Blue Jays are a fourth-place team to you.
Does not sound like that. Who is this guy? Apple who? Apple bum? I don't know. Is that what it is? I've never heard of this guy. Okay. Apparently we're bad.
So apparently you have a good job remembering him.
Interesting comments from whoever that from Applebaum over there. I mean, that's something to call him now moving forward.
And he took time to trash talk Chris Bassett. He said if that's the best acquisition on the pitching side this offseason, then something's wrong. He said if the Blue Jays want to bring aboard a guy whose ERA is constantly above 4, good for them. But then when you look at his stats, the only time he has ever had an ERA above 4 was 2016. He only pitched in 28 innings that year. Otherwise, it's been in the 3s every single season of his career. And he's even got a 2 in there. So I don't know what the guy's talking about.
Not to mention, I didn't see him starting any ball games, seeing he was a closer, which if you want to go follow the old baseball school adage, relievers are just failed starters.
Buzzing.
Yeah, I mean,
don't fear the Philly.
This guy is a jackass among jackasses. He's constantly been a cancer on every team he's ever played on. He was possibly set to be one of the greatest relievers the game ever saw. And he just continued to light things on fire and throw them into the dugout. Like, if everyone remembers, he's the guy that classically fought with Bryce Harper on the field. Like Bryce Harper.
And then it continued into the dugout and then into the club.
Leader of the team, all the rest of it. And this Jack Weed's going to pick a fight with him on the field. I mean, to his comments, I actually read the whole thing and then listened to the pieces that were someone carefully pulled off of the interview, which was really nice of them. Thanks to whoever did that. But the idiocy of the way that he's speaking is the desperate tones of a man who's really trying to save his job on MLB Network for the Red Sox.
Anthony Rucker. Oh, sorry.
He's not good. He sees stuff like Spit and Chicklets and some other stuff out there which is a great podcast. If you don't listen to that podcast, it's the only one that's slightly better than this one. But that being said, it's desperation to try and make yourself seem relevant when he doesn't think anybody's listening. And then you've got people and players who are going to make a massive difference in this season for the Jays. And to downplay it like that and make it sound like the Red Sox are going to make any kind of noise this year, it's a joke. It's stupid. It's idiotic.
We even got comments echoing your sentiment here, Jason, on our chat window. Mikey Bananas also saying, just ignore him, he's trash.
Yeah, he is trash.
Or just to be this person, I won't quote him, I will just show it because I can do this fun stuff. So Mikey, good call. So without beating the record, scratching everything up here as far as it's Papelbon is just trying to get Blue Jays fans irked up. And honestly, I hope there's a few Blue Jays players that are hearing this kind of thing and going, watch this. I really do. It's that time of spring where if you're looking for that little thing to get you going in the gym a little bit more, some stupid comments like this could be gas fuel for, going into the weight room just a little bit harder, whatever it might be. And to that point, we already know certain Blue Jays have already found that, juice that they need to keep moving and whatnot. As far as we've already heard, Jose Barrios has been at camp for weeks. He was hitting the off season really hard this year, hoping that he doesn't have another season like he just had. He's really trying to do that. But things like this, guys, that could be fuel to the fire. Like I said, do you think this is something at least for the short term? I don't think this is a long-term thing that the Blue Jays are like, yeah, all right, fine. Good luck.
Do you think he actually did that on purpose just to get people, just to get Toronto upset? Is that basically what his plan was? Or that he's really just shooting off the cuff?
I think he was shooting off the cuff, and worst case scenario, knowing him and watching him over the years to randomly fighting people and yelling people on the field, I think it probably was just a stupid comment that he kept running with.
Oh, so he's a team player.
Yeah, such a team player. Like we said, fighting with his friend. Well, Bryce Harper's known for being a gamer, but he's never been one of those people that's bad for a locker room situation. How do you get in a fight with that guy? That's usually the leader on every team he's in. It just kills me.
Yeah,
and it was like he was on. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jason. Though wasn't he only on the Nationals for that one season too?
Yeah, he for a guy who was touted to be a very, very, very good reliever, he had a cup of coffee almost everywhere he went, and it was all hit this. It had nothing to do with his arm. It had nothing to do with it was head and heart. And
outside the Red Sox, yes.
I always felt and I watched a fair amount of them, when the Red Sox were getting good there, and his attitude and the way he walked and the way he, just the way he was so confident, even when he got smashed around the yard, you just knew he was never going to make it. You knew he was never. It was false bravado, and that's probably what this is. And jackass.
I think I have a good way of summing this up for Blue Jays fans. We always hear about the Jose Bautista is the guy you want on your team, but not for everybody else playing against him, right? This is a guy that nobody wanted on their team and had to deal with. So, just saying. So, anybody, anything else? Last minute comments?
No, we've given him too much run.
Yeah.
There it is. Moving along. He gets 5 minutes. That's it. So let's talk something else, and something that was, as far as prevalent camp opening up, other than everybody obviously coming to camp this week. And apparently I should learn how to spell is the other part of this. But anyway, Bichette talked about, his extension and everything the first day of camp, and opened up and discussed about the arbitration process, how he's happy with the team, that they were able to find some way to make him happy, along with building the team in the right direction and not constricting everybody too badly. He got paid well, because we actually, unlike last week when we aired this, we have heard the tentative amount of what money he's going to be making. Jason, do you remember that off the top of your head? 33.
Yeah, I think we were talking somewhere in that sort of 30 million range, 33 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he got paid, and like I said, he was just discussing the process, and he got after last year and barely getting with the lockout and everything, he didn't really get a chance to do his case for the arbitration process, and they basically settled everybody's stuff last year. Bichette this year would have been his first time, and being able to be more or less $2 million apart and then come back to do this, it avoided all that situation for him. But he was very, very vocal in that conversation about how he was just overjoyed that he didn't have to go through that process, because he said it was a broken process for baseball and it's not properly getting people paid in full. You have to be the ridiculous standout guy to get paid in that arbitration process. Eric, you're the guest on the show this evening. Do you want to weigh in on where you think that conversation goes and what your thoughts are on the arbitration process and what you've heard?
I mean, the only thing I really have to say is I get why players are not fans of it. I mean, you essentially have to tell your team, this is what I think I'm worth, and then to have the team come back and say, no, you're more worth this. That's what causes relationships to be strained. I think the Blue Jays kind of got lucky this time with Bo. I think it could have gone quite a bit worse, and I think that them coming to terms on a new deal helped their relationship long term. I mean, I'm not convinced that he's going to leave now like I did, a week or two ago. So I get where the disconnect is, and I get where the issues are. I don't know how I would fix it, but I know that I can tell why, it would hurt a player's feelings to have a team come back and say, like, well, we think you're $2 million worse than what you think, So I get where the disconnect is. I get it.
And you saw that with the players like Marcus Stroman too, and how that turned the whole situation sour. I'm not exactly saying I'm dying to have Marcus Stroman still in the Blue Jay uniform, but to that point, you saw that relationship just fall off a cliff. Go ahead, Jason.
Well, I have some insight on this, having some friends and relations who played professional sports, and it's exactly what you said. It's just like walking into your year review from your boss, and your boss being like, hey, great to see you. Here's all the stuff that sucks about you. And you really have nothing to say back. And you're like, well, I'm just as good as Fred out there in IT. And they're like, well, you're really not. Fred's a little taller. Fred brings me a sandwich every now and again. Like, it's
Fred's supposed to be doing that well. You're supposed to be this guy.
It's a tear down process, and all the player has to do is compare himself to other players, usually not on other usually on other teams. So management can't even say, "Oh, we know that guy." They're just taking what they hear, or and so the back and forth is not good. And it's something that definitely needs to be changed. I know there's only been a handful of players in every sport that have sort of spoken out to how negative this process is. They almost just need to have a board where the players are rated on a certain way based on salary. It can't be anything other than maybe stats, games played, blah, 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 games not injured, things like that. But if they can use that as the bellwether to sort of say, oh, okay, Bo, you had a great year last year. You fit into sort of this category. You're not quite, Tatis Jr. You're not quite, here, but you are above these 8 guys. So that's where we're going to put you. We're not going to base it on anything other than just that. And until they can come up with a situation or a system that works, then it's always going to be this negative beat up situation. And you're almost always going to look negatively at the team from that time past.
Yep. I tend to agree with you, Ken. After you've heard the collective group here, what are your weigh in? Because your opinion, I know you learned about this process recently, so I'm curious what you're absorbing this is. Are you sitting
trying to absorb it?
What we do ballpark?
Yeah. So walk me through the whole process of the arbitration process. So when someone has an arbitration, they have to go and, from what Jason's saying, is that they kind of have to defend themselves and compare themselves to other teams, or sorry, not to other players on the team. Is that right?
Well, it's
the management about how much they're getting money.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think the way Jason explained it, the yearly review with your employer. So after so many I want to say it's after having a year and a half or 2 years of experience in Major League Baseball. You're no longer on your rookie contract anymore. Whatever that service time window is, I don't remember it off the top of my head. After you get into that, it's 2 years. Okay, I wasn't far off. So you get into that level of what they call arbitration eligibility. And when you're in that ballpark, they literally just give you a chance to plead your case, basically.
They have to make you an offer first. So they have to say to you, so let's just say to Bo, they said, okay, Bo, we're going to give you $8 million for next season. And Bo was like, I think I'm worth more like 15. Then they talk about that. They have up to a certain point to discuss that and to try and come to an actual contract. And if they don't, the players union has guaranteed these guys the right to be able to have a mediation come in and say, I think I'm worth this. They think I'm worth this. We got to land somewhere in the middle. And I mean, rookies in all sports get smashed. Like it is no sport is good to the rookies. Like if you have a kid like, that explodes, Julio Rodriguez, like he's still on a rookie deal and he's going to make, I think he's making a giant
extension.
Yeah. He's making league mini and he's like, he's crushing everything. But, that being said, it is a process that they need to have. I mean, some guys will underperform significantly, and then they go to the team and they're like, well, I did all this before. And they're like, well, you didn't do crap last year. So let's scoop away the crap. And there's got to be something in between there. So yeah, it's a convoluted, like as they get past 2 years of service, and if there's something called a Super 2 player, and the eligibility for arbitration dances all over the place. But that's basically it, when the team and the player can't come to an agreement to extend a contract, and that's what happens.
And so this occurs after year 2. Sorry, after year 2, right? That's when this happens. Now, moving forward, 3, 4, 5, year 5, 6, 7, 8. There's still the arbitration process altogether. It's just eligible for everybody. Is that how it works?
As soon as you're in arbitration, you get 3 seasons of it, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get 3 seasons of it. Okay.
And
is this done through the agents, though? Is this done through the agents and the management, or is it literally like Bo talking to like?
It's probably him, and
I'm sure it was through his agent.
Yeah,
through his agent.
Yeah, and the reason they do this, Ken, is if you want to go back and look at Oakland A's history. In the late 80s, early 80s, they were paying all their major league players, like Vida Blue, who was a Hall of Famer, and all these guys, peanuts. And I'm not saying that just because it's an athletics thing and there are elephants in the logo. Because they didn't have these processes in place to guarantee good players raises. It was just you and the owner figuring out what you're worth, and you move on. The problem is if you didn't have a good agent that actually talked you up, and the businessman that owns the team is really beating you up on that kind of thing, there was no real place to go. The only way that you could get out of that is what Reggie Jackson does and say, after you trade me or I'm not playing. Yeah. So Reggie Jackson goes to a new team. But the Oakland A's won plenty of World Series on that basis. So the reason they have that is to protect the players, as the players union wants the players to make more money. That's in their interest to make the most for their players as they humanly can. And that's why the players union is so powerful in Major League Baseball.
Yeah. One of the most powerful in all of sports.
Might be all period. So, but to that point, this is a way of getting a guaranteed raise if you're a good player.
Yeah.
For 3 years. And then you better hurry up and get a good agent.
Or hit 40.
And to that point, even high school kids have freaking agents now. So there's not really anywhere you're avoiding that piece to it anymore. So those kids getting drafted in the MLB draft, I can guarantee you, first 2-3 rounds worth of kids have their own agents already. Jerry Maguire.
Show me the money. Literally, show me the money.
Let's talk some other quick things with spring training. I did see that George Springer was talking today during my lunch break. And in the midst of this whole thing, what he was more or less talking was his health, all those good, wonderful things. But the main piece of the conversation was how he is actually rather excited to be playing right field. Something we have actually mentioned on this podcast with every guest we've had, collectively, unanimously agreeing that the best thing for George Springer's health is to keep him in right field and have an everyday center fielder. Jason, are you happy to hear that he's happy to be playing right field, not just looking good on paper at this point now?
I think here's the three things I really liked about that whole situation. So I was watching him walk through the parking lot. They had like videos of the guys walking through the lot and, guys laughing and waving. He looked like a kid who knew what his Christmas present was, and it was just past the guy with the camera. Like he looked like a 12-year-old kid. He was so excited. He had a bat. Like he's just like, and so
like the full-on actual bag lunch walking.
Yes.
Is correct. But he was the one that with the pictures with him walking in with a plastic bag and the glove.
Yeah. I mean, he was so excited to be there, which is great. And then to hear him say, right field, and for the Jays to acknowledge the fact that is a better place for him for sure, to keep him healthy, keep him at the one spot, all of that stuff that we need this year. And then the third thing was watching Varsho play center field. I saw the clips of it today. The guy is a ball eater out there, and they were hitting him deep left, deep right into the gap. Looks like he's in great shape. He looks like he's going to completely be able to demand that position at center. And I mean, for me, poo-pooing that trade a while ago, officially after watching him go today, I'm eating crow, eating my words, whatever you want me to eat, I'm eating it. The guy's a game.
He's not the only one, because I remember, I think I named the episode Varsho Who?
Yeah.
I remember that. Yes, that was the name of the episode.
Point, I didn't know who he was. I'm not an Arizona Diamondback fan, and I'm sorry to say that's like diving into my record collection and finding my B-sides up until last year. So, but it is a very Blue Jays-y move, because in all reality, we talked about it on that show on and what his overlay over the Rogers Center, and even since then, changed to the new dimensions. Offensively, he's going to look like a beast, I think, to go along with a guy that was in the Gold Glove conversation last year, to your point, Jason. So it's very interesting to see where Dalton Varsho is. And Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but whose bold prediction was it that said he could be an MVP sneak this year?
I believe it was David Corcoran on the page. He's a big Varsho fan. I'm a big Varsho fan. I think this is going to be a really good year for him.
Yeah. I'm hoping that, these guys keep wanting to buy me a freaking Kevin Kiermaier jersey. I have a strange feeling I would love to be buying one of his jerseys around the All-Star break if he kicks up like we're all thinking. So good stuff. But Eric, how excited were you to hear about that stuff with just Springer, with him just being that, youthfully overjoyed to be back and healthy for a change?
Yeah, no, I love it. It's worth noting that he's spent a ton of time in right field, over the course of his career. So this is not a new thing for him. He's not learning a new position. He's just getting stuck in a spot that he's been in a bunch of times before. I think he's an awesome player, and I'm really excited to see him with the bat and in right field, because I think right field is going to be a lot easier on his body, which is, crucial. I think
intriguing.
Yes, I think he's an extremely important and sometimes overlooked part, of this lineup. So just keep the man healthy. The presence of Brandon Belt kind of makes it tough to get him time at designated hitter as well, but they'll make it work, I believe. I love it, and I think
DH spot period. You got it. We're talking Jansen's going to have probably a good year. You can't take Kirk's bat out of the lineup. That's going to be an interesting log jam a little bit at the DH spot this year, depending on who's hot at what times. So,
but it's good to have this problem. So I'm all for it.
Good problem to have.
Yeah. Well, we talked about a lot on the show last week that we have 2 top 10 catchers according to MLB now. So just saying.
Yep.
So Ken, I just want to get your opinion as far as the Springer thing goes. He is the igniter of this lineup when he's healthy. I'm going to give Jason a wonderful flashback to, he could be the Lenny Dykstra of this lineup. Somebody just hits home runs, 20 or 30 of them, and has the speed, has the legs. You now have the offensive presence of him for more than 82 ballpark games that he's played consistently over the last couple of years. And then you have an equivalent outfielder playing center field to the ridiculous level of what Blue Jays fans have gotten used to seeing from George Springer playing center field. That's two George Springers worth of defense in the outfield between Varsho and Springer. How excited are you to get to see that outfield with the two of them roaming and covering that much field?
Well, no, I'm very excited. I mean, like you said, if he's really snagging those balls right right in spring. Can you imagine what it's going to be like during the regular season? So very excited to hear it. I'm glad that that Springer is actually excited about being on right field. I think, didn't we have him in a few games, like a few innings last year playing right field? Is that true?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he seems healthy.
But
And he seems healthy as well. So if he can keep pulling off those home runs as well as staying healthy, I think we should be okay. And Varsho, he looks like he can hit the ball a mile, and let's hopefully that's the case. And aren't we missing a third outfielder?
Kevin Kiermaier is probably going to, funny enough, be the other center fielder playing left at this point. And I think that's not saying anything to his defensive prowess or anything. Is like as much as I'm not the biggest fan of him being on this team and being an everyday player, I cannot speak enough high thoughts and high compliments of his defense. He is one of the best defensive outfielders in baseball. I just wish that, in this lineup, he's got, I need him to hit too. Is the other catch, especially when he's taking over for a guy that was perennially hitting 280 in Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I need to see him batting more than 220 in a year. But I hope at the bottom of the lineup it sparks something and he gets the right pitches to hit. But to that point, there's 3 center fielders playing this outfield, Ken.
Wow.
So in a year where we actually officially kind of heard the first round of what the shift rules are the other day, which is...
I was going to ask about the rules. I know we saw it on our little Slack chat there to see what the new rules are going to be.
Yeah, I sent that out. I'll pull it back up. But in gist of it was you have to keep your infielders to start. So right when the pitch is thrown, they have to be in the infield dirt or closer to the plate. They can't go into the outfield. And they have to be 2 infielders on each side of second base. So those are the rules on the infield. So you're not putting that guy playing softball, fourth outfielder kind of thing going on. But I didn't see any rules about where the outfielders really go. But the perennial term that was kind of thrown around on MLB Network was true to their position. So that doesn't mean you can't play the left fielder all the way over on the left field line for a right-handed hitter or have the center fielder shifted that direction, but I don't think you're planting them 3 feet from each other. Those kind of things. You're not bringing the right fielder over all the way to left against the right-handed hitter. So you got 3 guys that this outfield, how you put it together, this could be the place that fly balls go to die. Just saying. So it'll be interesting.
So sorry, Craig, just because we have another comment from Mikey Bananas here is asking about the J. Should I just show it on the screen so I can put that?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So he wants to know.
We're talking about the outfield, so there you go.
12 players locked in. Who will be the 13th? Grossman or trade for a 4th outfielder? What do you guys think?
Eric, you're usually the one watching all the trade rumors like a freaking hawk. You see it?
Yeah, no, I have my thoughts, but Jason looked like he was about to say something. Oh, he's muted, I think.
Did your microphone die? Anyway, Eric, it's your turn because he can't talk.
Okay. I mean, there's essentially 1 spot left to make this team. Depending on who you ask, if you ask 4 people, you're going to get 4 different answers. If you're asking me, I think Blue Jays fans just really want to see some new flashy signing. So I think that's where the Robbie Grossman talk has come from. I have yet to see anything officially tying the Blue Jays. I haven't seen or heard anything of them legitimately pursuing him. I think people are just desperate to get some sort of new blood in there. I like the guy, but the further I have dove into kind of some of the internal candidates, the more I am leaning just going with who's already in-house. One guy.
Are you a Nathan Lukes fan like I am?
I was just about to say that. One player I've watched. I think his name is Nathan Lucas. I think I found that out the other day. It's Lucas.
The guy here in Rochester has been saying it wrong for a year. Then
yeah, Nathan.
But that's minor league baseball for you.
Nathan L. The further I've looked into him, and I actually got the chance to talk to him kind of recently, and he is really excited for the competition, and he knows his worth. He knows that he's not going to hit 20 home runs, but he knows that he's an on-base machine who can play really great defense. He's got speed on the base pass. I like him a lot, and Fangraphs has a depth chart out right now, and they predict that he will take the last spot. I don't hate that. Otherwise, there's another guy in the minor leagues who's not on the 40-man, Winton Bernard. He's an older guy. He just got into his first major league action last year, but he is another guy. He is just stupid fast. He can play all three outfield positions. He's got a little bit of power. He's another guy. Actually, he's another guy I just recently talked to as well. I got to talk to both of these guys, and both of them are excited for the competition. They know that it's right there. You know, there's one spot left, and it's got to be someone that can play the outfield. So you know, it's going to be one of those two guys, and I don't think a free agent signing or a trade is coming. So I think it's going to end up being one of these guys that's already here.
Yeah, and to that point, to where you're pointing, those are super athletic guys. Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
I'm right with you there. I don't think that anything else is going to be done. I think whatever it is, it'll be internal. I mean, I like both guys that you've talked about. And again, I think that the lust for having someone new come in will 100% hang in the balance onto how the Jays season starts. If they start out cold, then it's going to be immediate. It will be like the first thing that anybody's talking about. But that being said, you know, I feel like right now that's what the Jays are looking to do.
And just to be this person, apparently some Mikey Bananas, who's obviously all over us tonight.
Crushing it, Mikey.
To that point, right on it. So, but to that point, is he a good insurance policy? 100% to those guys that we were talking about. Grossman would be obviously a wonderful addition. And just to be this person, I saw this just floating around the internet during my lunch break today for baseball stuff. Has anybody seen what fellow like crazy outfield John Jaso has been up to since he got out of baseball at the age of 34?
He had those crazy dreads, didn't he?
Yeah, I think I remember something about him like sailing around the world or something along those lines.
You were right on the nose, my friend. So he's went like full. I don't know if anybody saw that old movie with Kurt Russell. He's went like full Captain Ron, and he's got the dread still. It's on a boat. He's just going. He literally has left the pirates and became a pirate.
A pirate.
Just saying. So I just thought that was kind of amusing. Some of these guys we were talking about remind me of John Jaso as a awesome fourth outfielder. You know, if you had to get 90 games out of him, great, wonderful. It's not a big deal, you know. So kind of similar to what we saw from Remio Tapia last year, or I lost the name. Oh, Blue Jays fans remembering watching Freddie Galvis play.
Oh, I love Freddie Galvis.
Bad years. So he strikes me as that kind of a player. You know, if you give him 90 games, he's going to make something out of it.
There's also going to be movement.
Want him to play 90 games? Probably not.
You're also going to see some movement from other teams too, right? Like other teams, even if the Jays are hot coming out of the gate, there's teams that aren't going to be, and there's teams that are carrying a lot of salary weight right now. And so you may see somebody who, you know, was predicted to have a good season, not having a good season in the outfield, either not getting hit the ball or getting hit the ball too much, or not hitting the ball. So, I mean, that leaves that first couple of months to be an interesting part of the season, I think, because there's definitely possibility for early movement, I think, this year, more so than I've seen in the past years.
And there's always something that happens with every team. There's this guy that gets hurt. This happens. This guy becomes available because we had a rookie come out of nowhere and we're going to bring him up to camp. It might spell some option for the Blue Jays come late spring and see what happens. And there's always something going on.
Now,
and we do have some certain places of depth that maybe can be traded for those guys and see what happens. But we'll see what, you know, roll the dice. But right now I'm perfectly happy with where this 12-man roster is shaping up. And if that 13th spot is the only thing I'm worrying about for the first time in a million years, I'm kind of strangely okay with it.
Now, did you guys happen to see any of the footage of Kikuchi pitching?
Yeah, the bearded Kikuchi.
Yeah,
he's bearded.
Oh yeah,
bearded.
Looks hot. He looks
great.
great.
Look at that.
And I mean, he was throwing the ball hard. I thought it was a very interesting drill. I don't know if you guys watched it, but the guy who was simulating to be in the batter's box had a catcher's glove on. And if you watch more of it, he's actually trying to catch the ball on some of them. Like he's throwing the ball
Yeah.
into the strike zone, and rather than using a bat, he's trying to catch it as he passes his hand through the zone. Thought it was a very cool. I actually marked it down for our training because I thought that's a really neat way to get a pitcher to change his reads, because I can follow it with my eye and try and catch it a lot easier than I can hit it. So I thought it was pretty cool.
And then it's not coming back at you, so it's that level of. But the one thing I thought it was the most interesting thing about that video is the guy had the balls to not wear a helmet.
Yeah.
So I don't care. I'm just saying, if you were going to talk about Blue Jays equivalent of Ricky Vaughn right now, you say Kikuchi's. He can't find the plate in the games that we saw him until he was finally in the bullpen last year, and he looked like he was still having that problem. But I'm taking that with a grain of salt because that was the first day of camp. So I'm not, unlike everybody else, I'm not caring about that right now.
Right.
So
is he penciled in for being like the 5th starter right now? Because I heard some of the news outlets saying that he's kind of like the 5th starter.
Unofficially, he's the 5th starter.
Yeah, because your other options we talked about, Ken, last week while you were out, Mitch White being the other one. There's some other younger guys, and then you get in this really long list of meh.
Yeah.
After you get through those guys. Or you're hoping that you're getting into Nate Pearson finally being a pitcher, which I saw that somebody wrote about today. You're getting into hoping that Ricky Tiedemann comes up and just destroys and pulls an Alek Manoah all over again, and you get the same equivalent of what we saw when Manoah came up his first year. People forget he's not been in the majors that long. And he was a moment when he came up and was doing what he was doing, because everybody remembers Nate Pearson was the prospect. Alek Manoah is the guy that he's a year off. One more year, he'll be here. No big deal. And
now look at him.
There he is. So it's like as soon as people said he's a year away, he took that as an insult and he ran with that and stole that job, and literally stole that job is the nice way of saying it. He's never let go of it. Obviously, he's I would say probably perennially our ace at the moment.
Yeah, I was about to say he's probably our ace for the season.
There's a good argument between him and Gosman.
Yeah, unless you ask Papelbon. Yeah.
But to that point, the biggest thing I mentioned a few minutes ago that Barrios has been in camp for a while now. Now all the other guys are coming back into the camp and getting moving. It's not just the early birds there in Florida at the new training facility, which finally they get to take full advantage of. I think for the second year here, I think that's honestly. This is probably the first year they've taken full advantage of that, because the first year they had it was COVID. Last year was the lockout. See, right? How crucial do you think that is, guys? Just to them actually having a real spring training this year, especially for guys like Barrios.
I think it's huge, massive. I mean, it harkens back to any time they've ever shortened the NHL's training camp, how many groins get blown in the first couple of weeks, right? Like, I mean, you need the time to be able to, the other nice thing that I think is happening right now, especially on the Jays side of things, is it's warm in Florida right now. And that helps. I mean, having warm arms and warm legs and just the availability of being warm while starting to get those mechanics going and big throws. I know my wife and one of my sons are going to Arizona this weekend for a hockey tournament, and it's only like 18 degrees, 16 to 18 degrees, which is still nice. Like, I mean, I would take that every day right now. But that being said, it's not that warm. Like, the guys in Arizona are wearing hoodies the whole time they're practicing, and you go to Florida, and I just saw a picture of Manoah with no sleeves and shorts, coming out of the outfield.
Guns out, guns out.
Yeah, I mean, that helps out massively. And the more time spent together and more time that you get, just building that team and building the unity it's great for the Jays, great for baseball.
Yeah. Greg, do you remember the first question you ever asked me when I first came on the show?
No way. Other than, hi, how you doing? Where are you from?
Aside from that, and he said, "Yeah, Ken, we're going to do this live." So, Ken, what do you think about the shortened spring training? Do you think that had any effect on the Jays start? And
There was that.
And did you know how I responded with that?
I don't recall, but I
know. I remember
you actually having a really good conversation out of this. Now that you're bringing it back.
Yeah, I said basically, how long is spring training normally? And he said 5 weeks or something like that. Like, and how much did we get? 2.5 weeks.
2.
Yep, 2 weeks. Yep, pretty much. So it's nice to get a full 5 weeks. Now that I know the number now, 5 weeks.
Yeah. Well, most people just, the average fan sees the game start showing up on TV again. It's like, oh, it's spring training. You don't realize that they're doing all this work 2-3 weeks before those exhibition games really start. So that's key critical time to a lot of pitchers go through a dead arm period where they're just starting to get the things going again. And one day it's all there, 90 miles an hour plus. And then you go to heat it up the next day and it's like, you reach back and it's not quite all there. We've seen it from Blue Jays pitchers and even our third baseman for 1 year, and Josh Donaldson couldn't throw the ball across the diamond all of a sudden. And it's because he wasn't training his arm, and he went through that period a little later than probably should have. And obviously we found out in that year he was fighting a bunch of things with his shoulder. But to that point, those are all things that they're trying to build up and gear up for the ridiculous marathon that is the Major League Baseball regular season of 162 games. And if you don't have the time to properly prep for that, especially with your teammates and your training staff and all that stuff, I'm sorry to say, me doing, a few ounce curls and stuff sitting on my couch aren't exactly getting me ready for a Major League Baseball season. So I think them having access to that facility throughout the off season, not being locked out of it, because that would have been the team and everything last year helping the players out, and that wasn't allowed. Only minor league players were at the training facility during the regular spring training period last season. So I think there's going to be something there for that, along with our next topic. Pros and cons, fellas, of the World Baseball Classic for what is the slight interruption to this year's spring training efforts. I think it's after the second week of games, so it's March, the second week of March, the 6th-ish is when they report to their teams that they have to do for their countries that they're going to be playing for the World Baseball Classic. I'll look up the date and get that for sure, but there's plenty of Blue Jays going to this, and one of our best players in Vlad Guerrero Jr. I want to read the room, fellas. How excited are you for him maybe to go and get into real competitive games, get those juices flowing to the point where he's ready to steamroll into the season and be crazy Vlad from 2 years ago? Or are you worried that somebody gets hurt this spring during the World Baseball Classic and screws up our whole season? Which side of the fence are you all on? And Eric, I'll let you go first.
Well, I mean, I will echo pretty much exactly what you just said. On one hand, I'm extremely excited to see Vlad get out there and kick some ass. That's the biggest pro to me. Just getting him some game action and then letting the fans, see him a little early. And then, also, as you said about the cons, the injuries are what makes me the most concerned. It happens. It can happen in just normal spring training too. So, I mean, I'm more excited than not.
Somebody.
Yeah,
we forgot to talk about that.
I'm more excited to see him get going than I am worried about him getting hurt. I think it's good.
More plaque at a time.
The interesting thing for me, first and foremost, is Vladdy's Canadian. He should be playing for Team Canada. He's born in Canada.
Absolutely.
The Dominican team doesn't need his bat.
I'm gonna bang that. I'm gonna bang that drum until I put a hole in it. Anyways, that being said, I am with the both of you. We have a rule in this house where, like, if we're going out for a day or if we're going golfing, if we're going to do something, if there is even the hint of rain and anyone mentions it in the family, it's called Murphying the day, because Murphy's Law says if you talk about it, it's going to happen. So stop talking about injuries.
Okay.
I will say this. You guys are 100% right. I feel like one of the things that spring training lacks is meaningful games. I mean, when it gets closer to the actual season, you're starting to see the actual team and guys that are really clawing at the edge to get up there. Then you can see some competitive baseball. But the first 5 games are garbage. They're hot garbage. You may see a kid who, rake a couple or make a good play in the outfield, but you're not seeing good baseball. And this World Championship of Baseball is going. I mean, it is. The teams are ridiculous. I don't know if you guys saw that stat that I sent you for the American team. Like, it's donkey. Crazy. And then the team from the DR is nuts. The team from Cuba is nuts. Mexico's good. It's just going to be, it'll be so much fun to watch, because the other big thing to keep in mind is when these guys play for their country, for the DR, for Cuba, for all the rest of it, it's flash. It's bat flips and trying for triple plays. And I mean, it's totally different baseball. It's like schoolyard ball versus pro ball. And
they're not getting paid for this. This is just them showing up and having fun.
I know.
Trying to win for their
last
countries.
time it happened, it was amazing to watch the athleticism. And now you've even got more major leaguers playing this year. Like the USA has really added on with Mike Trout and a few other guys who have classically said no. Team Canada's not great, but I found it interesting. Did you guys know who our third catcher is? He's Josh. He is Josh Naylor's brother, Bo Naylor. So
Bo Naylor. There it is. Cleveland Indians young prospect. Bo Naylor. Love me some Bo Naylor.
But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it. I want to see like what Julio can do and what all those guys can do when they play together, and they don't have to worry about the restraints of anything. They can just have some fun and try and smash baseballs. So
that's a fun outfield that Julio gets to play in too, because not only is it sporting ex-Blue Jay, now Mariner Teoscar Hernandez has another young, great player in Eloy Jimenez from the White Sox, and not to mention Juan Soto of all people. Yeah. So that's the Dominican Republic's outfield. And you look at their infield, it's not anything short. You look at their infield, Willie Adames is basically the worst guy out of this lineup. And Willie Adames is a 30 home run hitter last year, or damn near close to it.
And I guess Team Canada has Freddie Freeman, and they've got Tyler O'Neill. And did you guys know Otto Lopez is on Team Canada?
Yep.
I had no idea. And of course, Ernie Witt.
Only because I've been reading what Blue Jays are where, but
yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone would ever think when I'm down back in Arizona in a month or so. And so I cross with the last two games of this. So the last game of the tournament is Canada versus Mexico. And I mean, Canada will get their doors blown off, I would assume, but it'll be a lot of fun to watch. Like I said, like there's a bunch of guys on that Canadian team who are on the Vancouver Canadians, and I recognize their name from minor league teams. And again, it's a really good place to show if you hit a couple of bombs off an MLB pitcher. It shows pretty well for your walking into the season.
Yeah, you mean like what Robinson Cano is hoping to recapture with the Dominican team?
Yeah.
I can still do this, is what he's saying. Yes, former Yankee Robinson Cano is playing and suiting up for the Dominican Republic team. So to that point, more power to him. I hope he does well. But the Canadian team is no slouch. And to your point, we do have some Freddie Freeze and the Tyler O'Neills, and not to mention, correct me if I'm wrong, Johnny Axe is back. John Axford.
Yeah.
So to that point, I don't know if anybody saw those highlights from him throwing last year. I was surprised some teams didn't call him down the stretch to hurry up and get on their minor league team and see if they could bring him up to the majors, because he was throwing some darts in those videos last year at the end of the year.
I could be wrong, but I believe he was hurt all year. I think that's what it was. Because I remember he came back in 2021 for the Brewers for, I think it was one game, and if I remember correctly, it was the first batter he faced. He got injured and missed all of last year. And I'm pretty sure he made a long post about this on social media, so I could be making it up, but I'm pretty sure.
You're probably accurate. You are a writer. You do your homework.
Players like Axford and like Robinson Cano and stuff, there are some of these guys that are retired. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the name Danny Valencia, but he former Blue Jay. He is playing for Team Israel in this. He's officially retired. I talked to him the other day. He said he's done. He's in real estate. He's living the life. But he just to have the opportunity to represent your country. A lot of these guys are coming just out of full blown retirement. Like, I don't know if Robinson Cano is officially done, but someone like Valencia will tell anybody, I'm done. But if something like this, if the phone rings, you take it.
Yeah,
because it's for your country. Into that stuff. So
I feel like we would all be surprised at when I've been watching a little bit of the Mexican League, and I'm always surprised at the names that I see. You're like, what? That guy's still playing baseball? And he's not. He just, when the Mexican season comes around, he just jumps on a team, whichever one he feels like, I would imagine, and plays. It's the same with the DR stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there'll be guys like, and you'll be like, what? You haven't played in 10 years. And then you'll hit a home run and you're like, oh, that's why you're still doing that. So,
and to that point, a lot of these guys still play winter ball regardless.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're just playing because they like to play baseball.
Now, I don't know. Have you guys seen Ken, have you seen the infield and the outfield for the American team? Like, the other teams are great and all the rest of it. But
No, I haven't really
so
seen it.
the infield for Team USA is Bobby Witt Jr., Nolan Orlando, Paul Goldschmidt, Pete Alonso, Tim Anderson, and Trey Turner. Okay. So just let that sink in for a moment. And now listen to the outfield. I think if they just had the outfield and they played the 5 positions that are represented here, they'd beat most teams. Cedric Mullins, Jeff McNeil, Schwarber, Tucker, Trout, and Betts. Like, what?
Wow.
It's just
Trout
not
and
fair.
Betts being in that outfield is crazy enough as it is, and then you add those other guys.
Wow.
Crazy.
Being the baseball fan that I am, how crucial do you think Mike Trout's season looks, or how crazy do you think his season looks if he just destroys everybody in this World Baseball Classic and gets that little bit of swag back that he's lost the last couple of years of being hurt? Do you think he comes popping into the American League this year with the Angels team that I would say is more competitive than it's been the last couple of years?
We've been saying that for 20 years.
Full strength Mike Trout is something in your last Shohei Ohtani year. Just
my hope is that he does, and then the owner for the Angels falls and hits his head and makes a trade and sends Mike Trout anywhere other than there. This is Connor McDavid right now. Is Mike Trout in Anaheim? We will never see the greatest Mike Trout ever while he is there. I don't care how healthy he is, what he does. We will never see possibly the greatest baseball player ever be the greatest baseball player ever because he's in shit town.
So as Jason tries to appeal to our 13th man conversation earlier in the piece, Mikey Banana, apparently we're going to get Mike Trout around the All-Star break. Just
I got a jersey already on order.
There it is. Get him doing some bass fishing instead of hooking marlins down in the coast down there. It's all it is. Just a difference. So crazy fun, boys. But on that note, we're kind of getting near the end of the thing here, and I was going to just be this goofball here and see. We were talking about it with a couple of the guests that have been on the show here because we famously during the lockout did a Guess That Blue Jay thing, and I thought it'd be fun to do one here and see if anybody can get the guy that I'm laying out here. And I'm even being nice to Ken here. I'm not going to be a horrible person. So I'm going to be this one, and I'm going to give you 3 clues to wrap the show up here before I give Eric his, wonderful, shameless self-promoting pitch here at the end of the show. I'm going to give you 3 clues, and first to guess the player, or you all tap out and I give in and tell you who it is, and we go from there. So are we ready? Let's try and think of something fun to say. So clue number 1 is that he was originally a Rule 5 draft pick for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Which are all 3 clues?
Here so you can time frame it. It was a 1980s Toronto Blue Jays Rule 5 draft pick.
George Bell.
Ernie Witt.
I thought I'm not making a guess yet.
So, would you like me to keep going?
Yes.
Next clue.
All right, I got to look it up here because I lost it. So, he has actually written a children's book.
Ernie Witt.
Is that the only guy you know from then?
I'm not going to say Kelly Gruber because I always seem to throw him in almost every episode, so it has to be anyway.
See, that's why I was thinking maybe I was being nice, but it was Kelly Gruber.
Really? All right.
So the last clue was I am one of the only Blue Jays to hit for the cycle. And to that point, Kelly Gruber, that was your easy clue. So he's the only Blue Jay I've seen that's written a children's book, which is hilarious when you hear about what he's done since the children's book. I just thought that was really amusing. And, like I said, that was one of the ones that we did way back when. So clearly none of you watched this show a year ago.
Mikey Bananas said George Bell.
George Bell, there it is. That would have been a good guess to that point, because that is easily one of the best Rule 5 draft picks in all Major League Baseball history, in my opinion. Blue Jays steal George Bell, and he becomes the 1985 MVP. And to that point, Kelly Gruber, also no slouch, but had a very, very fine window of awesome. Is the catch with Kelly Gruber, because injuries and stuff just plagued the end of his career. He never was able to get it back. So, anyways, Eric, as we wrap the show up here, anything you would like to discuss, or this is your, minute of fame or whatever you want to call it for, pitching your work?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we covered pretty much everything I would need to. One of the last comments I want to say is that I'm extremely excited to see Nate Pearson this year. I just wrote something today about me happily being the conductor of the Nate Pearson hype train. I really do think that he's going to find something as a relief pitcher. I think his starting days are done, but that's totally fine. He fits the mold of someone that could be a really, really, really solid relief pitcher. So I'm excited to see that. But yeah, other than that, everything else was covered. Yeah, I'm the editor over at Jay's Journal. I do the majority of the writing, and I post everybody's pieces and all that. So, I mean, I got a lot of stuff coming up for the site. I'm sitting on a lot of cool things. I got a couple of interviews and getting to know some players and stuff that I'm going to be coming out with soon. So, I appreciate all of the people tuning into this. I appreciate all of our readers. It's tough to be the only guy doing it, but it's very, very worth it at the end of the day. It's a very rewarding, job.
To that point, you were trending earlier because you're fun with your one article with Mr. Papelbon. So I'm hitting it hard, trying to get my name out there and trying to get the site's name out there. And I think podcasting and stuff like that is a great way to do that. So yeah, and not to mention being on the official podcast of JaysJournal.com is such a rough spot for you to hang out every once in a while. So pleasure having you as always. So outside of that, boys, you have anything else you want to mention?
You know what? I got nothing. I got nothing.
I am just going to be this person because Mikey's obviously a fan of yours, Eric. So just saying.
Thanks, Mikey. I appreciate it, man.
If you guys are fans of baseball or Blue Jays and like good writing, I find Eric's writing to be really insightful and really easy to read, which I need. So it's it's stuff that I don't know about the Blue Jays and the game of baseball. So I have to thank you, Eric, because I actually find out a lot of stuff for this show from you. So, I don't know if it's cheating or not, technically, but
it's technically the same team.
Right. We're all in the same gang.
Yeah. And sorry, Eric, quick question. I know you just finished writing everything. And who did you say was the greatest third baseman in Toronto Blue Jays history?
Who did I say? I didn't write that one.
Was it you?
No, it wasn't me. But
was it you? My mistake. We all know who it is.
Oh,
it was Gruber.
It was Gruber.
Yeah. If you couldn't tell who Ken's favorite player is yet.
Yeah, no, I see that.
There it is. So, and just to say, he got Dion. Just saying. So, all right, Blue Jays fans, thank you for joining us for another lovely evening of live Jaybird watching for you. We are your barroom chat for Blue Jays fans, so make sure you join us each week and hit us up on the comments. Mikey Bananas would like some other friends in the chat room. We're ready here in chat. As you see, we are live. We are doing all this right here on YouTube and wherever you're getting your viewing pleasures from for your streams. Also, if you missed the show, tune in on your podcasts. We are on every podcast platform you humanly possibly can, think of. So whatever you get those podcasting pleasures from, make sure you join us here on Bird Watching. And that would be the end of the evening here on the official podcast of the JaysJournal.com at Part of Fanside. So fellas, that means it's 2 claps and a Ric Flair and a Let's Go Blue Jays time. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Spring is finally here.
George Springer is finally here.
Kelly Gruber.
Kelly Gruber.
Thank you for listening to the Jaybird Watching Podcast. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch at BirdwatchingGC and our YouTube channel. If you want to support the show and get extra content, please consider joining to our Patreon at patreon.com/birdwatchinggc. Go Jays, go.